And now time has come for our first keynote speaker, who is Professor Anja Heikkinen from Finland, from Tampere. I think the little snowstorm that we had yesterday may be her responsibility. Anja Heikkinen is Professor of Education at the School of Education at Tampere University, and her research is mainly concerned with the cultural and historical transformation in relations between the education system, industry, and politics. I think she's a very appropriate person to open the discussions today. I kindly invite you to address the audience.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the organizers for inviting me here. It's a great honor for me to be here from Finland and rather perhaps well, peripheral country in Europe. Also thanks for the first day. It was very interesting, and especially I enjoyed the site visits and the second site visit, because my areas are mainly adult and vocational education, not so much, and lifelong learning, of course. So I found this approach quite familiar. I mean, the topics and issues which they were, with which they were struggling in this foyer center, quite familiar. And as you can hear, I'm not a native speaker, so I hope you are tolerant with my fingelska. Also, I think I slowly perhaps start to understand what Fedactio is and what all these activities are about. Maybe when I was thinking about coming here, I had in my mind, I respect very much the approaches which are here and which are present, but perhaps in my mind, the concept of diversity, it was somehow perhaps broader, and I thought that, I think Professor Kundara yesterday mentioned about this the concept of multiculturality, and I think that for me also diversity, it's very a wide and complex issue, and just to make to use the opportunity to say something from Finland is that there are different kinds of minorities. They are not only ignored and neglected minorities, there are also powerful minorities. And the questions of diversity, it's all questions of normality and deviancy, and how they are related to power and exercise of power. And there are different types of power. Power in social relations, but there's economical power, cultural power. I think maybe perhaps something which is lacking until now maybe will be in the next speeches. What is lacking perhaps problematization of this diversity and also these different and minorities, to talk about power and especially economy and economical power, because that is what this EU is about, and this EU targets 2020. They are about economy and economical power. So Finland, for example, we have maybe there is nobody from Sweden here there is somebody from Sweden, that we have a Swedish-speaking minority, which is a privileged minority. And our history, I could compare it with Turkey, because in 1960s and 70s, the Finnish people were the majority of guest laborers in Sweden, in the car and metal industry and, well, all kinds of jobs. And I think the Finns experienced very much the they had same experiences in Sweden. The next guest laborer group was Turkish. So it was the Finns and Turkish who were partly providing cheap labor force for Sweden in 1960s and 70s, just in the same way what happened in big countries like France and Germany. So what we are talking about, there are different countries in Europe with different histories, and the problematics of diversity and minorities and migration are rather complex. So I know I'm not able to do it now in this talk because I was mainly, these were ideas which came into my mind yesterday. And so what I have prepared somehow, is to talk about some projects, some experiences which I have had in European projects and in targeting issues of diversity, migration, and disadvantage, and things like that. So we heard yesterday this talk about Europe 2020 targets in education, and this is from a European Training Foundation, and it's the same definition as they from the EU, the dominant definition of what Europe 2000 means. The smart growth, it is about economic, as I think you mentioned that Europe should be the brains and the rest of the world, they will be providing natural resources. So that's why we should be smart, and we should have a more efficient and more competitive economy. This is clear. And we also need inclusive growth, because the problem is with the brains and with this efficiency and competitiveness, of course. But who is defining these aims and goals? Are there whose aims and goals they are really? Whose targets they are? Well, there are these again mainly economical questions or issues. We would like to have as much self-sustaining societies and countries as possible to reduce the number of unemployment. But then you can ask, what is the choice? What kind of employment is meant by this? And the growth of the growth in research, development, innovation. Well, to where do we invest? Where do these investments go? And this reduction of early school leavers, increasing the number of tertiary degrees. Why should we do that? What is the rationale behind? And we should do something with the people at risk of poverty. So what is the risk, and so on. So Finland is one of, it has been, as probably those who know something about Finland know, that it tries to be the first, the best pupil in the class, and tries to be proactive. It's typical for Finland that the policymakers try to make recommendations and government programs and plans even before they have been done or completed in the Commission. So we already have these targets for 2020 for Finland, and we are planning not less than to be the most qualified nation in the world. And we should be at the leading edge of everything. So again, this is government aims and goals. I haven't been asked. Nobody asked me or my colleagues or my friends, or I mean, that's what we should do. But maybe I don't go further with this European programs or policies. But there are things which we don't know, I think. For example, we talk about knowledge society, we talk about this importance of brains and to be smart and so on. But what do we talk about when we talk about knowledge? What is the relation of knowledge to citizenship, to occupation, to division of work, not only in Europe, inside Europe, but also globally. What is the relation of knowledge? And of course, universities and higher education are crucial places where these orders of knowledge and definition of knowledge is taking place or it's provided. So how does higher education and research feed into the EU strategies? And also could ask about these, Europe has been full of, and every country has been full of this internationalization and multiculturalization. Well, maybe not so much, the topic of cross-cultural is not so popular, but what are really the effects? What are really the educational outcomes from that? And I think even though with all this rhetoric about combating against these disadvantages and to more multicultural, intercultural living together and so on, these positive programs, at the same time, when I'm thinking about universities at least, but I think the rest of the education system, what we are really talking about is how globally recognized and competitive education systems we have in the different parts of the system. Early childhood. We try to be the best country in the world in education, from the early childhood to adult education. So in order, it's the most competitive solution in education. And education export. We don't talk about anything else in universities anymore than education export. We don't talk about cultural collaboration with other universities. We just trying to find products to sell to other countries. So my wider framework for these issues of diversity and the questions of different minorities and whatever, I think if you think in a planetarian perspective, it's a question, education is a question, and research a question about what do we do with the planet Earth, and who are using the power in deciding about the future of the planet Earth. So EU-Europe is nothing without a population. It needs a population which is a European population. And the question is who are the Europeans? What does a European mean? Inside Europe and outside Europe. I'm sure you are familiar with these discussions about Europeanization of the world. And but it is not only outside Europe, but it's very much also internally. Europeanization of Europe itself. And the problem is not only, I mean, these diversities and minorities, a question of what does non-Europeanness mean? I mean, we are celebrating Europeanness, that Europe will be this and that, but what is non-Europeanness? Who don't belong to this Europe? Who don't fit the standards of being European? So where this takes place or happens, the struggle on domination of planet Earth, we have transnational competence markets, global skills small, we have excess population, problems with excess population who don't fit, who are not useful, who are something extra. And we are doing it as individuals. We are individual competitors. We are increasingly, or we have destroyed or we have lost collective formations of work and in work and society. And there's a lot of trust in ICT, which will be somehow, through ICT we could go beyond these problems. Once we have social media, that will solve the problems. I have a lot of colleagues who believe it's like a religion for them. Social media will, then you will have democracy, you have whatever, once everybody is in social media. How much do I have time? 10 minutes, okay, not so much. So what I was thinking, just to reflect on a few, or tell about a few experiences I haven't been so much anymore because I'm a bit frustrated with with the EU European projects about what you can really do there, or what are the outcomes or what are the consequences of this project. So there are, for example, some attempts which I think quite many of the projects are somehow related, or they attempt to find something European which transcends the natural and cultural frameworks in research and development. They are looking for tools to compare, models to be adopted, best practices that can be adopted. And for example, here is, which reminded me of the yesterday's Foyer Center, this trying to find an evaluation tool for reintegrative activities project. Then there has been where I've been involved in transcending gender barriers in vocational education work, to find a model for how to transcend, how to exploit better the gendered qualities, kind of the strengths of which you have a kind of masculine and feminine strengths which can be useful in economy. And there are some others, and then this cross-cultural study pathway, which was an attempt to develop a new kind of academic program, research-based program, which in a university context. But I just briefly say something about this reintegration. There were two projects, and it took about 4 years, the whole project. It is now, I think, 8 years or something when it was finished, or 7 years. How we were looking at it was, I mean, this is mainly, I have to say that in all these projects, it's a struggle because we come from different countries. We are defining the problem. We started from, you could say that, how do we define the problem of reintegration? What do we mean by that? It's a different problem in different countries. Well, in this case, this was very much originated from the German context. For us in Finland, reintegration was not a problem in the same way. Reintegration was more problem for adult population, not some or adult groups in society. But for Germany, it was because of the famous dual system, because it's very demanding and very strict. So their problems in trying to fit deviant youngsters in that system were big, and therefore the approach for them was like that. But this is mainly perhaps from a Finnish and Belgian perspective, that when we were looking at these young people in their growth pathway and how we were following them through this project, which was a kind of joint research with the practitioners or action research type of activity. So we were following the youth in their context for several years, and we were watching what is conditioning their lives or their growth pathways. And there's a socio-economical and cultural context which is different in different countries. And one thing which has been mentioned here yesterday, at least some point, is that we are these sectoral policies are making us blind. We don't notice. It's easy in a way just to stay in your own box and think, well, for example, I'm interested about vocational education, so I'm interested only about vocational education policy, or I'm interested in social policy or employment policy. So, but they are all affecting or conditioning how these problems, whose problems they are, and what is problematic there. And the people who are dealing with these groups of young people or adults, they have their own professional paradigms, how they are conceptualizing, how they are framing this phenomenon. So these practitioners who are dealing tens of different groups of professionals who are working with these youngsters in this case, they came with the different mindsets and with different conceptions of what to do, how to work together, and so on. And the researchers, they come from an academic context, and they can also come from different disciplines with a different conceptualizations themselves. So it was really an encounter between different types of professionals and different types of researchers who should try to make sense first, what is it that we are talking about? And then we were expected to find an evaluation tool. How to evaluate this kind of activity. That was the mission of the project. And then there's the arrow from academic context to professional paradigms and actors, because the academic context, most of these people, they have an academic background, like most of us here have an academic background. We are products of higher education and different disciplinary and academic cultures and contexts. So that was the situation, and we developed in order to get somehow on the ground. We developed mainly the Finnish and Belgian partner. The others were maybe a bit critical about that, or they use it loosely. Try to look at two sides, kind of the conditions, education and employment structures, which are conditioning these activities, this program. And on the other hand, we are looking at the activities, the actual choices, the action that the practitioners were exercising. What did they do at different moments? Who did what? And their experiences of what they did, their confrontations, their tensions and struggles among themselves, and also the students' experiences at different points. So 2 minutes, okay. I will just show these two things about this. I will leave the next next topics because I know this is too much. So we never published. We never had an outcome of this research because the EU, they wanted the evaluation tool. So we provided an evaluation tool, but it was not an outcome of our research. The researchers really couldn't feed into this policy process. So, for example, we could look at these reintegrative activities according to professional paradigm, the integratedness to mainstream, and the integratedness between different actors. And this is just that what was important. So you had the three programs or activities we were looking in UK, Gateway, New Deal Life Skills. Then there is IIP, which was from Greece. There's Casapia, which was from Portugal. Pre-Paths from Belgium. GAV, Jugendausbildungs, something from Germany. And then three different types of activities from Finland, Kytkin, Tracks, and Supra. And you could see quite clear differences who were, with what kind of professional paradigms these practitioners were working with these, in these activities programs, and how they were related to the mainstream education system. There were quite big differences in the approach. And of course, this is already old, and I could say that the situation has changed in Finland already. But I would say towards already visible here. You can see how closely the learners, students and practitioners, how closely they are from mainstream and from these separate activities, or integrative activities, how far they are working together or if they are separate. And I think it's quite striking that in the end, these three integrative activities were mainly practiced, exercised separately. So you have to first make these people fit before they can go and work. I mean, they are the deviants and they have to be adjusted to the system. We are not changing the system. We are trying to change the people who are in these programs and targets of our activities. And what I would like to say about this table, that when you start to go further, then you ask, why is it like this? And we had a lot of discussions about these things, but we never managed to write it out. When we are looking at Portugal, UK, Finland, Belgium, Greece, you could have other categories or institutions which are important, but in this case, for example, the importance or meaning of family what family means in different cultural contexts, kinship, and what relation it has to work, to employment, to education, and how the industrial life is organized. We don't have in Finland, at least, maybe in Nordic countries, we don't have any social partners or labor market partners. Denmark, they have. We have, I would say, social enemies, not social partners. So we talk about just work life. And so how it is structured, what is the relation to vocational education? And then there's religion. In most other, we are secular countries in the north. The religion maybe doesn't have any relation to vocational education, or it doesn't have anything to do with employment. Or what are these crucial institutions and categories which are which have to be taken into account in order to understand these different ways of coping with diversities in different meanings of the world. So this brings, I think, this historicizing approach. It is necessary because you cannot understand these institutional patterns, designs, unless you go deeper into the history and do some kind of cross-cultural historicizing of where you are standing, and problematizing these issues of power and deviancy and normality. Thank you.